Good evening, everybody. Two major stories that we're following tonight. The Pence-Kaine vice presidential debate, of course, last night. Who won? Is there a truly detectable bias and media preference at work in these debates? And what is the voter impact of it all? Tonight, we'll be taking all of that up here. The Trump-Pence ticket and the threat of Hurricane Matthew in principal focus tonight. First, politics. Governor Mike Pence riding high today after even much of the mainstream liberal media acknowledged he did very well in last night's vice presidential debate. Pence was calm, he was composed, and he was effective. Kaine, on the other hand, came off as aggressive and downright rude at times as he interrupted Pence, it seemed, constantly. Some Trump supporters saying the debate demonstrates perhaps the likely reason Hillary Clinton and Tim Kaine don't get together very often. That is, Kaine's hard to take, even obnoxious demeanor. The last time they were together, by the way, back on Labor Day. Governor Pence today, modest after what many declared was his big win in the debate with Kaine. Here he is at a rally in Virginia this morning.
Some people think I won. I'll leave that to others. You know, what I can tell you is from where I sat, Donald Trump won the debate. Donald Trump's vision to make America great again won the debate.
As for Donald Trump, tonight he's campaigning in the battleground state of Nevada. He has 3 appearances there today, and right now he's holding a rally in Reno. We'll bring you any developments from that event here tonight. Among my guests, Trump economic advisor Peter Navarro, former UN ambassador John Bolton. We'll also have a full report on Hurricane Matthew. Tonight, hundreds of thousands of people in southeast Florida to Charleston, South Carolina, have now begun evacuating as the storm, now a Category 3 hurricane, gains strength and is tracking toward and along the East Coast. Florida state officials say residents there have fewer than 24 hours to prepare for what they say will be significant rains, high surf and coastal surges, and high winds. We'll have the latest for you on this worsening storm. Those reports coming up in this hour. Our top story tonight, Donald Trump taking his campaign to suburban Las Vegas today, his first appearance since last night's vice presidential debate, in which his running mate, Governor Mike Pence, steamrolled Democrat Tim Kaine in the mind of many. Even the mainstream liberal media, including the New York Times, the Washington Post, forced to admit that Pence won the debate. Trump today said the debate gave Americans a first-hand look at his excellent judgment.
Mike Pence did an incredible job, and I'm getting a lot of credit because that's really my first so-called choice. That was my first hire, as we would say in Las Vegas. And I'll tell you, he's a good one. He was phenomenal. He was cool. He was smart. He was, I mean, you just take a look at him. He was meant to be doing what he's doing, and we are very, very proud of Governor Mike Pence.
And as for Senator Tim Kaine, he was criticized for being rude, over-caffeinated, and debate moderator Elaine Quijano's neutrality also called into question. Quijano throwing tough questions, mostly at Pence, allowing Kaine to interrupt at will throughout the debate. Pence was not rattled. Here are some of the evening's highlights.
We trust Hillary Clinton as president and commander-in-chief, but the thought of Donald Trump as commander-in-chief scares us to death.
Look, he's not a polished politician like you and Hillary Clinton.
If you want to have a society where people are respected and respect laws, you can't have somebody at the top who demeans every group that he talks about.
If Donald Trump had said all the things that you said he said in the way you said he said them, he still wouldn't have a fraction of the insults that Hillary Clinton leveled when she said that half of our supporters were a basket of deplorables.
Donald Trump can't start a Twitter war with Miss Universe without shooting himself in the foot.
If Hillary Clinton would just turn over the 33,000 emails.
Republican FBI director did an investigation and concluded.
All right, we are moving on now.
Senator, if your son or my son handled classified information the way Hillary Clinton did, they'd be court-martialed.
That is absolutely false, and you know that.
Absolutely
and you know
true.
that.
There's a reason why people question the trustworthiness of Hillary Clinton, and that's because they're paying attention.
The second presidential debate to take place this Sunday in St. Louis, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. I'll be there with coverage beginning at 6 p.m. Eastern here on the Fox Business Network. The other story of the day, the onset of Hurricane Matthew. Evacuations are underway in Florida and South Carolina as the Category 3 storm is taking aim at the East Coast. Forecasters warning now that Matthew could make landfall within the next 24 to 36 hours, potentially as a Category 4 hurricane. Fox News correspondent Phil Keating in Deerfield Beach, Florida, where residents there are preparing for the worst. He has our report.
Hurricane Matthew is big, it's strong, and powerfully barreling through the Bahamas as it chugs towards Florida. The current storm track projects the Cat 3 major hurricane may strengthen back up to a Category 4 when the eye approaches the eastern coast of Florida. On the Space Coast, mandatory evacuations began at 3 o'clock, impacting Brevard County's barrier islands and the cities of Melbourne, Cocoa Beach, Cape Canaveral, and Merritt Island.
You can always rebuild, you can always repair property, you cannot restore a life.
The president is urging everyone on the entire U.S. East Coast to take this storm very seriously.
I want to make sure that everybody is paying attention to your local officials.
Voluntary evacuations are also happening up and down the state. The hurricane warning applies to Broward County on the south up to Jacksonville. Many gas stations have already run out of fuel, closing shop and sending drivers to sit in long lines at the crowded fuel stations, which remain open. Florida residents also stocking up on water and food supplies, while utility companies pre-position extra crews, anticipating there will be power outages. Tuesday, Matthew slammed into Haiti and Cuba as a Category 4, dropping close to 40 inches of rain in some spots and killing at least a dozen people. Many others still remain missing. Florida Governor Rick Scott is urging anyone who plans to evacuate to do so now, before the highways clog with traffic. He has also activated and deployed 500 National Guardsmen and women.
Everyone in our state must prepare now for a direct hit. We have less than 24 hours left to prepare, evacuate, and shelter.
The U.S. Navy announcing tonight that 200 U.S. troops are now on their way to Haiti to help deliver aid. FEMA has already pre-positioned crews in Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas who are able and willing to deliver ice, food, and water wherever those emergency supplies are needed. At many gas stations around Central Florida, this is the scene: bagged up fuel pumps and underground fuel tanks that have simply run out of fuel after a long day of long lines of cars and trucks fueling up in case they need to evacuate. Lou?
Well, thank you very much. Phil Keating reporting. Fox News meteorologist Rick Reichmuth is tracking Matthew's path, and he's at the Fox Weather Center in New York. Good evening, Rick, and what can we expect?
Conditions in Florida certainly are going to be getting worse, and we will certainly see impacts in Florida. What they are still remains to be seen because the storm is going to be very close to it and run parallel to it instead of making a landfall like we traditionally think of in a storm. This is where we are looking at now in across the Bahamas. Last few images on the satellite look like it's getting a little bit better organized, and the latest flight reconnaissance did show the pressure dropping a little bit. So we're likely starting to see that strengthening happen, and we do think it'll get back to a Category 4 storm. We have hurricane watches in effect throughout the coastal areas of Georgia, northern parts of Florida, and then we have hurricane warnings in effect anywhere you see this red from the north of Miami up towards Daytona Beach, and this also includes interior sections including Orlando. So we do expect to see potentially hurricane force winds inland in towards places like Orlando. All the population here, that I-4 corridor is going to need to watch this. This is potential wind gusts. We're going to see this continue to move overnight tonight and tomorrow morning across the Bahamas, and then hug the coastline here of Florida, maybe making landfall, maybe staying right offshore. Either way, at some points we'll probably see the eye wall right here along the coast of a Category 3, Category 4 storm that would cause incredible damage across the eastern shore here of Florida. Model guidance still, you see, not complete agreement on the exact path it takes. That is important to Florida, but the general motion of this is very clear that we're going to see this moving to the north and then cutting across areas right here into Georgia and the Carolinas before we see it maybe even make a little bit of a loop back towards Florida. Talk about that in a second. Category 4 storm here, say by Thursday afternoon. Tomorrow we're going to see this tropical storm force winds in South Florida. Officially, we have a Friday 2 a.m. That's an overnight. Tomorrow night, a storm right here off the coast of Florida, hugging the coast, likely making a landfall somewhere around Cape Canaveral of a Category 4 storm. This would be something like we haven't seen in a very long time. And then, Lou, take a look at this. All of our guidance that we thought it was going to move to the north, probably not going to happen. It is going to get nudged here and maybe stick around for a while off the southeast coast. Lou.
All right, a powerful storm. What has it been? Something like 11 years since we have seen this happen? Since we've seen a major hurricane hit Florida, it's been 11 years, and the population has grown a lot in that time. So there's a lot of people that this is their first experience of a storm like this. Well, Rick, thank you very much, and we'll come to you as to get a further sense of where the storm is headed. Rick Reichmuth, thanks so much. Turning now back to politics, the Clinton cartel strikes again. A new report says President Obama's Justice Department has given an arms dealer a free pass in an effort to avoid, it is claimed, exposing damaging information about Hillary Clinton in advance of the election. Fox News chief intelligence correspondent Catherine Herridge is in Washington and has our report. Good evening, Catherine.
Well, thank you, Lou. Based on emails and court documents first reviewed and broadcast by Fox News over a year ago, arms dealer Mark Turi makes a compelling case the Obama administration authorized a covert weapons program in 2011. Since the U.S. could not sell directly to the Libyan opposition, Turi was going to be the middleman, but he got sidelined, and the operation spun out of control, arming America's enemies.
Well, this would come under Secretary Clinton's watch.
As part of the workaround, the U.S. would supply conventional weapons to another U.S. ally, Qatar.
There's a 60-millimeter mortar with optics, 120-millimeter mortar, all conventional type weapons. If you want to limit the exposure to the U.S. government, what you simply do is outsource it to your allies.
Turi insists he never shipped any weapons to Qatar, and others stole the zero footprint idea.
The State Department had a lead on this. They were going to run it with their people. When this equipment landed in Libya, half went one way and the half went the other way. The half that went the other way is the half that ended up in Syria.
And Lou, it's important to note that the publicly released Clinton emails that were sent and received on her private server back up the arms dealer's account. In early April 2011, arms dealer Mark Turi exchanged emails with Chris Stevens, who would later be killed in the 2012 Benghazi terrorist attack. And the following day, on April 8, 2011, this heavily redacted email that was released to the Benghazi Select Committee shows Secretary Clinton was interested in arming the rebels using contractors. And it reads in part, FYI, the idea of using private security experts to arm the opposition should be considered. With the trial looming next month and a deadline to make evidence available to the defense, the Justice Department has now filed a motion to drop the criminal charges, citing several factors, including recent discovery rulings by the court. This means the Justice Department and the White House will avoid any litigation that shines a light on its efforts to arm the opposition during the height of the Arab Spring, as well as Clinton's emails, Lou.
So the implication, Catherine, is that discovery that would be employed by the defense in this case could be unsettling to the political well-being of former Secretary Clinton. Is that correct?
Well, I would encourage viewers to go online and read our story at foxnews.com because we have a lot of the original documents attached. We asked the Justice Department this afternoon why it abandoned this case after 5 years of litigation and millions in dollars in legal fees. And they just pointed us back to that court filing that said there were a number of factors, including the evidence being publicly aired in a federal court, Lou.
That's a remarkable acknowledgement on their part, and we will join Catherine in recommending that you go to foxnews.com
if you don't mind me doing
reporting.
That.
I'm sorry?
I hope you don't mind me doing that because this was a real team effort with Pam
I
Brown.
That's
it was
why I invited you
a labor
here.
of love.
That's why I invited you here, because I think this story is so important, and your work and Pamela's work so critical and as always exemplary. We thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for acknowledging it. You're welcome.
Catherine Herridge. We're coming right back with much more on law and order and law enforcement. Stay with us. Joining us tonight, former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations American Enterprise Institute Senior Fellow John Bolton, also Fox News contributor. Ambassador, great to have you with us. There's something so puerile and adolescent that it's almost unimaginable, and that is this administration cutting off talks with Russia on Syria. This is the guy, the president, who said he'd talk with anybody at any time, but apparently the only guy who has about 10,000 warheads is not on his list. What in the devil is he doing?
Yeah, well, at the State Department, this is called sending a strong signal.
Oh, Lord.
And that's usually followed by sending a stiff note. You know, it shows just how weak and feckless the administration policy is. And it's been wrong for 5 straight years because neither Obama nor Hillary Clinton nor John Kerry understand either the situation they were dealing with in the armed struggle inside Syria, nor the Russian and Iranian interests at stake. They were wrong from the get-go on what the Russians would agree to, and the Russians now, over this period, have maneuvered the United States into the weaker position in the Syria and Iraq theater, and have advanced Russian interest in ways that haven't happened in the Middle East for 50 years.
Ambassador, you make the Obama administration seem so, I don't know, capable when you say they've been maneuvered. It looks to me like they just sort of fell upon themselves and clumsily arrived at a position that was untenable. That is, without any credibility whatsoever on any issue, you name it, in foreign policy whatsoever, but most specifically the Middle East and North Africa.
Yeah. Well, look, Syria was certainly the graveyard of whatever credibility Obama and his team had when we came to the famous red line comment about Syrian chemical weapons.
How long ago was that? Let me see. That was 5 years ago, wasn't it?
Well, almost, but they had destroyed it before that. I think it's a problem that the next president's going to inherit, or in Hillary Clinton's case, make even worse, because the damage that's been done to America really can't be fully calculated, and our allies while we're at it.
Well, you know, we're going to try, though. We're going to try to keep up with the damage as we see it and try to assess it. In one of those areas is, of course, Libya and Syria. And now comes the word that Mark Turi, an arms dealer, has had charges dropped against him because he threatened to reveal much about Hillary Clinton and her role in the dispatch of arms during the period in which the Benghazi terrorist attacks occurred, and that she was behind, in some measure, the shipment of arms, unauthorized, a famous workaround. That's the lexicon for avoiding the rules and doing all sorts of, well, Iran-Contra-like things. I mean, what in the world are we looking at here? What's your judgment?
Well, I think it's a stunning maneuver to end this prosecution. I just think if there is a Trump administration, one job of the next attorney general really is to investigate the prior administration under Loretta Lynch and Eric Holder. I mean, this is the kind of politicization of the Justice Department that in years gone by was unthinkable. Now it's daily business over there.
I got to ask you a question. This is a Republican Senate. It is a Republican-led Congress. Where the hell is the oversight from those committees, and why don't they know the answers?
Yeah, I think, look, I've been the victim of Democratic committee oversight for many years, and it's a very effective tactic, and I think the Congress should have been using it more. If we don't get the White House, but we hold the House and the Senate, they'll have plenty to do.
I have to be honest with you. Occasionally, both of these parties together, I weigh them, I balance them carefully. They both scare the hell out of me. Ambassador, thanks so much for being with us. Ambassador John
Thank you,
Bolton.
Lou.
Be sure to vote in our poll tonight. 2 debates, 2 left-wing moderators. Do you believe the anti-Trump bias of the mainstream media in these debates is now at least somewhat apparent to everybody? Cast your vote on Twitter at Lou Dobbs. We'd like to hear from you. Follow me on Twitter at Lou Dobbs. Like me on Facebook. Follow me on Instagram at Lou Dobbs Tonight. Links to everything, LouDobbs.com. Another Obamacare lie. Can you believe there are still Obamacare lies about which we know nothing? This lie exposed as California tries to become the first state to give Obamacare to illegal immigrants. California officials requesting a waiver in order to allow just a mere about 400,000 illegal immigrants to buy health care insurance. The plans would not be subsidized if approved by the administration. Let me repeat that. No, I won't, because they're lying. The president back in 2009 claimed Obamacare would not apply to illegal immigrants. You may remember that. Again, they were lying. Joining me now, Trump economics advisor, professor of business, UC Irvine, Peter Navarro. Great to have you with us, Peter.
Good to see you.
That debate last night, they didn't get real deep into economic policy, but they did sort of skirt the subject and got there, I think.
I thought that was one of the turning points that we've seen over the course of this history of this campaign, because finally all the cards got laid out on the table. What we know now is that the Trump-Pence ticket is going to push hard and win on economics and national security. That is clear. Hillary Clinton has no defense against that. And because she has no defense against it, Clinton Kane are just going to do this just rabid dog kind of hit on Donald Trump over and over and over again. That's what the battle's going to be about.
I told you I was a little concerned about a couple of things. That I didn't think either candidate's economic plan dealt strongly enough with the issues of the balance of trade and the balance of capital flows that are required for sophisticated economies like Europe, Asia, and the
United States. Why is it that you and I can have that discussion in 30
Wait.
seconds and they can't do it in 2 hours?
Well, I don't know, because you're advising them and I'm not. You help me out here. But the real issue here is, what are we going to do about that $20 trillion, or 19 more accurately, that Donald Trump talks about? What are we going to do about a government? And people don't even understand the dimension, the scale, and the scope of this massive behemoth institution that no one could manage. Why aren't people talking about the real deal here, Peter?
Well, they're not asking the right question. My point with you, Lou, is that just in 15 seconds, you asked a textured question that we're not getting from the moderators, right? And so what are we going to do? All right, let's try this. We've got a budget deficit that's debt that's gone from $10 trillion in 2008. Just about double, right? So how are we going to deal with that? Well, the Trump economic plan is all about doubling the growth rate. And if we double the growth rate...
I'll take 4% every time.
Every time. And so how they're going to do it is pretty clear. Tax cuts, regulatory reform, unleashing the energy sector.
Right. 2 points.
And eliminating the trade deficit.
2 points.
That works.
By the way, I support all of that. There's just one problem with it. We saw under the Bush administration in the first part of the 2000s extraordinary tax cuts that resulted in the most anemic job creation that we had seen in the post-World War II era. I have a problem with just that as a mantra. I need to understand
that's
what else
a great
is
point.
going.
Okay, let's do this, okay? Because my read of that is that we got up to 2002. That was the first year that China joined the World Trade Organization and began dumping all sorts of goods into our country.
First full year of the Bush tax cut.
2 things went wrong with 4 of the cylinders in our growth engines. We stopped investing on American soil and start sending our dollars to Beijing and to other places, and that drained the GDP.
Outsourcing.
Structural problem, right?
Okay.
Secondly,
middle class
we
jobs.
started running massive trade deficits.
Yep.
Those two structural things
Consecutively
basically
since
draw down the
1976.
gross domestic product, Lou. And
Yep.
so you can have all the tax cuts in the world and regulatory reform.
You're making
and if you only do that, nothing happens. Go ahead.
You would not believe it, Peter. I am actually in agreement on economics.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, we got to get deeper and we got to get straighter and we've got to actually have policies that work. And I have to tell you, I give Donald Trump all the credit in the world for at least getting a presidential campaign and debate focused on real issues. And with that, I have to say, we'll pick it up here next time.
All right, we got real detailed plans, Lou.
I know. All you got to do
I'll
is
lay them right out here on this table here.
Okay, but there are no mirrors or anything, right? It's all straight up
I
stuff.
feel like this is a North Korean town. I'm lower than you here. It's your advantage.
Yeah, maybe it's got more to do with your size than the chair.
Oh, bada bing.
Just like in North Korea. Donald Trump isn't holding back on Hillary Clinton. It's always good talking with Peter Navarro. Here we go. Hillary Clinton has gone radio silent. She's apparently gone back into hiding. She has no public events scheduled until Sunday's debate. Last time she was seen in public with her running mate, Senator Tim Kaine. Are you ready for this? Was a joint rally held on Labor Day 31 days ago. They haven't even been in each other's presence. We're told there's been one phone call. I'm not sure I believe it. Donald Trump, on the other hand, continues his campaign swing through the western states. Events in Las Vegas, Reno, Henderson, just outside of Las Vegas. Before heading back to the East Coast for events in New Hampshire, then Wisconsin later this week, as he is preparing, we're told reliably, for the debate. This time I can insert that. Joining me now, former prosecutor and Berger Singerman partner, Katie Fang. Good to have you with us, counselor. And Republican campaign strategist, Fox News contributor, Tony Sayegh. I can't say, well, you're a counselor of a different sort.
Of a different sort.
Absolutely.
Don't get the same billable rates, though.
Well, I'm going to let you and Katie work that out. But let me start, Katie, with you. Last night, a big deal for the candidate and for obviously Governor Pence. Is it enough to pivot the campaign? Is this a reset for the Trump candidacy?
We're looking at the numbers, Lou. I'm not sure if Pence was able to carry the day per se. I will tell you guys this. I'm kind of disappointed there's only one, because maybe the next time we were to do this, they could put a shock collar around Kaine every time he kept on interrupting Pence. But, you know, Pence did a spectacular job. I think he unfortunately highlighted the personality differences in terms of the way that each candidate carries themselves. I think Trump, he's a dynamic guy, dynamic speaker, but Pence's composure really stood out, and I think it was in a stark contrast to what we see from Donald Trump sometimes.
What do you think of that, Tony?
Well, no doubt that you had, in my opinion, Governor Pence deliver as good a debate performance as anyone could have expected from him. I think it has changed the conversation, by the way, Lou, in the immediate days now leading up to the next debate.
To the level of being a reset for the candidacy?
Not a complete one, but certainly a change of conversation, which is important. We're going to see if it really impacts the polling numbers, obviously, in the next few days. But the reality is he outmaneuvered, he outclassed, and he outperformed Tim Kaine in a way that was so impactful that it was very difficult, not even for those on the left, to acknowledge. If you look at the CNN ORC poll, Kaine's approval numbers, well, just to share some of the news from our Democratic friends, Kaine's negatives went up by 12 points after the debate. 43% of
only 12
in a Democratic-leaning poll
the same debate
went up 12. 43% in a Democrat-leaning poll said he underperformed. That speaks to the kind of bad night he had.
A couple of things, Katie, before I turn to you. Just a couple of little benchmarks. One is this was the least watched vice presidential candidate since debate since 2000. The number's disappointing a bit. Secondly, the benchmark rises a little bit in that we've got still a very narrow contest, a spread between Trump and Clinton. The thing that's striking is 70% of the country thinks she's dishonest, 70% of the country wants to change a direction, and yet this president still has a 50% approval rating, and she is leading Trump in nearly every contest by the narrowest of margins in most. How do you rationalize that, and what do you do about it, Katie?
Well, you know, I'm going to cite to the United States Constitution, the 25th Amendment. It's there. The vice president steps in under death, resignation, or removal of the president. I think people need to understand.
Well,
Hillary
that sounds
Clinton
pretty
still.
dire.
Well,
Are you always
doesn't
this
Hillary
sunny,
Clinton have?
Katie? I mean, my God.
But doesn't she have massive health problems that have kind of been kept in secrecy? So something may happen. And then let's talk about the fact that I get it. The immunity deals, everything that's kind of immunized even her from prosecution by the DOJ. Maybe something comes to light eventually. Who knows? But really, you know, Kaine last night was accused by Pence of being a loyal soldier. I would have liked to have seen Pence be a little bit more of a loyal soldier himself. It's an interesting interjection of a dialogue now as to how can we disconnect somebody like Hillary Clinton from President Obama? Can that even happen for her, which probably will not happen?
Let me go to the point here, and that is, have we ever seen a presidential candidate lose an election when his vice presidential candidate has won the debate?
You sure probably have in recent memory, but
I just hit you blind with that.
I'm going through my Rolodex there, Lou. I mean, I'm a pretty bright guy, but that was a lot to ask for.
Well, the answer is not as far as we know. Katie Fang, Tony Sayag, we thank you both for being with us. We appreciate it.
Guys.
Thank you, Lou.
On Wall Street, stocks are up as crude oil surged to $50 a barrel. We're back, baby. The Dow rising 113 points, the Nasdaq up 26. Volume on the big board picking up as well. 3.8 billion shares. A reminder to listen to my reports 3 times a day, coast to coast on the Salem Radio Network. Up next, last night's debate may have been filled with yelling and interruptions, but Senator Kaine was respectful when Governor Pence talked about his faith.
My Christian faith became real for me when I made a personal decision for Christ when I was a freshman in college. And I've tried to live that out, however imperfectly, every day of my life since.
We're joined next by Pastor Mark Burns. Stay with us. We're coming right back, and you don't want to miss a word he says. Stay with us. In our online poll last night, we asked, actually it was the night before last, do you believe Donald Trump is too politically correct and reluctant to hit Hillary Clinton hard on the Clinton cartel corruption and her record of public policy failures? 68% of you say no, he is not. And we were having a little fun. That was done with some facetious attempt at humor, and we're glad that everyone agrees. Joining me now, Donald Trump surrogate and founder of the Harvest Praise and Worship Center, Pastor Mark Burns. Pastor, it is great to have you back with us. What'd you make of the debate last night?
Well, you know, first of all, kudos to Governor Pence. I mean, he did an amazing job. I was so proud of him, rooting him on, celebrating his answers, calm, cool, and collective, but precise. You know, he was almost like an assassin who was just pinpointing his answers directly, and allowing Tim Kaine to look foolish in his attempt to be the pit bull that Hillary Clinton selected to, you know, instead of being the team player like Governor Pence is, you know, Tim Kaine is the pit bull, the quote unquote bully to try to bully his way, and he made himself look foolish, which is why Governor Pence won the debate.
Yeah, you call him a pit bull. I thought he was more of an ankle biter, and I mean he was chewing on that. He was chewing on that about 70 times as he interrupted. I mean, I've never seen the likes of it, and I actually think this may be a pivot point for the Trump candidacy. I don't think we'll know until Sunday. I think if Donald Trump takes seriously his preparation, is ready to go in and do combat for the millions of people who have their hopes invested in him, a nation who have hopes invested in him. But if he does, you know, the dance, it could well be over Sunday night. Do you agree?
Well, you know, I think Mr. Trump is going to come in both arms swinging. Again, Governor Pence did a great job in talking a lot about policies, and you were right. Tim Kaine was more like an anchor biter to our barking, and horrible for the I call the biased media for allowing that to happen over and over and over again. But Mr. Trump is going to come to the debate. He's prepared. He is ready. He is strong, and I think he's going to put it away for the second debate. He won the first one. Governor Pence won this vice president, and he's going to win the second debate. And again, I think it's nights out for Hillary Clinton coming up as we're getting closer to the debate.
You know, when we look at what the Obama Justice Department has just done, dropping the prosecution against an arms dealer, a case it's had going for 4 years. They've tried to bankrupt him, trying to suppress whatever information he has about arms deal, in which, as Secretary of State, she was involved in Benghazi in Libya for the purpose of supporting the rebels in Syria. I mean, we have a cumulative weight of scandals and nefarious behavior in public office and outright pay-for-play scandals in public corruption with the Clinton Foundation. And we are watching this as a very tight race when there should be no question, in my judgment, whatsoever. What do you think?
It's disgusting and it's preposterous to see the level of corruption at the highest level. I'm not a conspiracy theories type of a person, so I don't follow the the little white rabbit down the hole, but I react to facts. And to see how the Clinton Foundation has found a legal way to receive money illegally while she was Secretary of State.
And by the way,
and to continue to do that pay for play.
Right. And Governor Pence did a terrific job of encapsulating precisely that in the Clinton Foundation, as do you always, Pastor, encapsulate and shed light. We appreciate it. Pastor Mark Burns, thanks for being with us. And thank you for joining us tomorrow night. Trump campaign manager Kellyanne Conway joins us here. Good night from New York.